congratulations on the film. I've had the pleasure of being able to sit down and watch it, and I loved it. So congratulations.
Cool. Thank you. I'm so glad. Yeah.
So
it's good fun. It's good fun.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about where the idea for this film first started off for you, because of course you've worked as an editor in the horror genre for a long time, and you've done short films. But where did the idea for this film start for you?
Well, the spawn of the idea came from Gina Helen Ashwell. Her mother, her English mother, was petrified when she heard about the myth of the drop bear, and we all wanted to make a film together, and we thought, hey, we should be the first to do this. And we all just dug in and thoroughly workshopped treatment after treatment after treatment, and approached Universal. We did some concept work, like some concept art to kind of show off our Thylacoleo Carnifex subspecies. It's a unique megafauna species, and Universal loved it, investors loved it, and we dove into getting the script written by Shanti Gudgeon, the writer in Melbourne, and I guess the rest is history. It was a long. I mean, it wasn't. It didn't. Yeah, it was a very budget considerate creative process. So we knew our audience. We knew what kind of budget film would be safe to make for this story, and we just went from there. So the myth of the drop bear is what got us started.
Yeah, you mentioned about creating your own subspecies for the film. Was that important to you? Because a lot of people would have just gone, okay, so the fear is drop bears, let's just make a drop bear movie. Was that important to you to create your own species?
Yeah, it was important to base the film in reality, though. So with the scientific, we're following these scientists, make it feel real. We, everything is sort of based in that sort of, it was grounded in science. So our first concept of the animal, and I want to say animal, not monster, the first sort of concepts were a bit too monster-like, and it just felt like, they were great images, and it was scary, and it was really cool, but we sort of I wanted to tone it back to make it feel like it was part of the megafauna tribe. Like, it had to feel like it was one of those animals that existed 50,000 years ago, like with the diprotodons and the Thylacoleo Carnifexes, and we had giant kangaroos, and we had all sorts of crazy stuff back then.
Yeah.
And it had to sort of fit in. So we adopted the nose of like a wombat-y kind of koala nose, and we gave it two thumbs like a koala has. The arboreal, like the camouflage fur, like some of the marsupials we have here. But so it sort of, I guess our characters never quite worked out exactly what it is, only that they discovered a new species, and that Ben gets his sort of dying wish in an ironic kind of way. He gets to essentially name it the Carnifex. Find a new species and name it after him. So it was important to create a really believable animal that would have existed here.
Yeah. What were those discussions like when you were saying, like, you took the nose off the wombat? Because I remember once I was talking to one of the artists from Weta Workshop, and they were saying that when they have to create a new creature or an animal for a film, they find themselves sitting around a big table going, well, I think it should be able to see in the dark like a mole and things like that. What were those discussions like for you?
That was so much fun. So I love that process, and every little detail, like the colour of its fingernails, how reflective are its eyeballs, how expressive, like, how big do its eyebrows need to be so that we can see any kind of emotion in it. Like, we have to sort of see it at the end of the film, decide not to attack them. And, how big do its eyebrows need to be able to move them enough to show that it's considering something or it's thinking, and how wet should its nose be? How clumped should its fur be? If it's a climber like a gorilla, how do its back legs work? Koalas are really uncoordinated looking walkers when they're on the ground. So we had the quadruped, biped. It was just every little detail was sort of thoroughly explored by myself, Jonah Booth Reynolds, who's the production designer and concept artist, and probably most of all, Anto Bond, who was the modeler of the CG animal. So he was kind of the mastermind behind getting it all to work and doing the muscles and the form of it itself in 3D space.
Yeah, the film also has a really powerful message about climate change. A really important message considering what we've been through in Australia over the last few years. Was that important to you as well, to put that message into the film?
Yeah, it was, and I think it was important to. I guess it made it relatable. Having the bushfires, and every state, every country around the world, not every country, sorry, but, there was this sort of relatable aspect about the fires, and I love the idea that it would sort of push species closer to either further away or closer to civilization, and it's sort of flushing out flushing them out into closer territory. I think, we're all in the same boat here. It's climate change. If we don't do something about it, no one will be able to make movies anymore. It was very important, and I loved the scientific aspect of it all, and the passion from the characters, wanting to do doing what they can, doing their part. Like Bailey says in the car, she says, I just want to help, I want to feel like I'm trying, whatever that is. And she's a filmmaker, and she wants to make a film about it, about how these guys are trying to protect the forests from being logged by finding, endangered species. It's really important to me.
Yeah. The other brilliant aspect of this film as well is the characters that you've developed, because they're characters that the audience genuinely care about. You'd be surprised how many horror films I watch every year where you sit there thinking, but I just don't care about these characters. I don't care if they get killed. Your characters weren't like that. Could you tell us a little bit about the development of the human characters in the film?
Yeah, it was really important to me, and again, I've worked on edited plenty of horror films, and the ones that really did well and that stood out were the ones where you care about these characters, and that's no one's perfect, they all have their issues, and so it was important to make them feel real in that respect. Like Bailey had lost her brother, the other two were kind of a tragic, unrequited love almost, that was sort of cut tragically short, with Grace and Ben. But yeah, it's so important to have characters that you care about, because when they get in trouble, you want to sort of jump in and save them, and so that's how you create really engaging stories. Kudos to the actors. Like, they were so natural, and just, I love that it's unapologetically Australian, that no one's putting on American accents for boosting sales in the US or whatever. It's an Australian. I mean, it's a it's an apologetically Australian film, and the cast really pulled it off. They've all come from film and TV backgrounds, and they're quite accomplished each in their own respect. And, varying scale of productions, but they all loved the story and jumped at the chance to come on board. So we were, very pleased to get them all.
Yeah. How did you go about casting? Had you written some roles with people in mind, or did you just go into the casting process completely cold?
I always like to have people in mind, like a type of person in mind, because it helps me. It helps me to, it helps the writing. But we had Amanda Mitchell from Mitchell Casting in Sydney, who is a really good casting director. And so once we had kind of come up with our top picks, we worked with her to go out to their Alexandra's, Cece's, and then Harry's agents, and worked through the deals. And if it wasn't for the characters being more than just horror movie tropes, they wouldn't have come on board. Like, they really did love the characters, and they all had sort of emotional, sort of personal investment in them. So it all worked out really well.
Definitely. Sean, the other thing I wanted to ask you about too is, because we have a lot of young filmmakers listening to this show, doing that big step up from a short film to working as a director on a feature film, what was the biggest difference that you noticed working on a feature film than working on a short film as a director?
What I was amazed at the most was how well a feature film crew just works. It's like a clock. Everybody knows their role. Everybody has their... It all just works. Like, it was really fast and hard and long days and stressful, but it was exciting and fun. Just really bloody hard. And it goes on and on and on. Like, we had a 25-day main shoot, so that was 5 weeks. We shot half days, half nights, and it was exhausting. Like, short films, you shoot for a week or a few days, and you just go flat out and get it all done. But on a film, you just have to keep that up and keep going and keep going. And you'd be shooting until 2 a.m, and you'd help people pack up, and you'd go home and watch footage from the day before, and soon enough it's 4 or 5 in the morning, and then you get an email saying you've lost the location, so you have to get up early and go find a new one, and then you're back into shooting again at lunchtime, and it's just, it's physically very demanding and emotionally demanding. And another thing that I sort of found was that it's socially exhausting. You're talking to people non-stop. And for an editor who normally sits in a room with a director for months on end, just one person, and you have to very quickly get used to talking to a lot of people. But the other big thing was working with world-class actors, and that was the thing I was most nervous about, and how to direct them and how to get different performances if something is not going quite right. But you just have to be sort of blindly confident and say what you want, and give the actors freedom and give everybody creative freedom, but you also have to kind of, at the end of the day, tell them what you want. And so it was a huge step up, and one, I'd love to direct another film. I can't wait to direct another film. But I don't know if I'd go back to short, I must say. I've had the taste for the features now.
Yeah, well, mate, we definitely cannot wait to see your next feature as well. And I guess to finish off, what would you like to say to people out there who are about to sit down and watch Carnifex in a cinema?
Have fun, enjoy the ride, and it's really important to get out there and support the Australian film in the cinema. It's a really good film on the big screen. Great sound, it looks great, it's handsome, great cast. It's it's just a wild ride, and I hope everyone goes out and sees it. You have to seek it out at the cinema and find where it's on, and I really appreciate everybody who goes out there and sees it.
Awesome. Well, mate, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us today. It's been an absolute honour having you on the show.